The fine rookie who started last week, John Congemi, will start this game for the Argos. McLaughlin's kickoff goes to Pinball Clemens at the 11-yard line. The Argos are happy to have him back in the lineup with the absence of 4 All-Stars from the roster. Tank Landry is there to make the tackle on Clemens, and the Argos will start their first series from their own 34-yard line.
Well, John Congemi, as you see, he's got 4 touchdown passes. The Argonauts only had 5, and talk about him in the opening. You know, it's his team now. What he does with it is up to him. I don't like his task of getting used to all the receivers that he has in there new. You love to have those receivers in training camp where you can work with them twice a day and get to know them. But, hey, it's not the case, so you get ready and go play football.
Well, his receivers are Paco Craig, Chris Bell, Slater Zaleski, and Eric Hoskins. Hoskins is the only one who has had a starting assignment in the past. And this is Underwood, who is replacing Gil Fenerty at that running back position. Doug Landry and Will Johnson make the tackles.
Well, you saw Terry Underwood carry the football. You know, yesterday at the press conference, Larry Kuharich knew all about Terry Underwood. He knew Paco Craig. He knew all the keys that we feel that have to play. The reason we have Eric Hoskins, he's kind of the veteran receiver on the field for the Argonauts right now. Maybe Congemi might be a little more accustomed to throwing to him. But the other 2, first games for them.
Wide left goes Paco Craig. Chris Bell comes out to the right. Congemi looks over the middle, incomplete. Penalty flag in the play. Hoskins was the intended receiver.
Let's go. I think we're going to get a roughing the quarterback.
Dave Yule will provide us with the signal and tell us about it. Well, he won't tell us about it, but it is a roughing the passer infraction against the Calgary Stampeders. And, you know, we were talking with Tank Landry prior to the game, and you were pointing out that the Stampeders were the least penalized team in the league this year.
Well, the thing that amazes me about them is they play like a bunch of wild men on defense. You know, they have kind of adopted Tank Landry's personality. He's very enthusiastic, aggressive, so on, but yet they don't get too many penalties, and I think that's the key for any club.
But that one is costly as it takes the Argos out of a punting situation and gives them 1st and 10, and Paco Craig makes a gain of about 6 before being brought down by the cornerback over in that side, Ron Hopkins.
Defensively is how the Argonauts have to win the football game tonight, or the Stampeders want to win the football game with defense. Landry in the middle, as we said, he's the leader. Will Johnson takes the defensive end from Ralph Jarvis, and Matt Finley has played exceedingly well since he's gotten to start. And I think that's a big key for him because he was picked to be a good football player a year ago, and he got over an injury problem.
2nd and 4, Toronto. The ball is at the 52 of the Calgary Stampeders, and Paco Craig with his 2nd consecutive reception, and that will be very close to a 1st down, perhaps close enough for the Argos to gamble if it is not a 1st down. They are going to measure to determine if, in fact, they have enough yards.
The thing you had to be impressed with there was how fast Ron Hopkins got up and closed on the football. He's got 5 interceptions for the Stampeders, and he gets that by just what you saw, breaking on the ball and anticipating, and he got there in a hurry.
We talked about the injuries that the Toronto Argonauts have incurred. Gil Fenerty, a hamstring. Darrell Smith, a cut hand. Jeff Boyd, a broken ankle. Emmanuel Tolbert, a hamstring. Paul Masadi, a hamstring. Jim Kardash, a groin problem. All 1st stringers.
All starters. Well, that really just tears your offensive apart. You know, try to get continuity now would be almost an unbelievable situation for Bob Obilovich. I think he just hopes that Congemi can get something going for tonight, and we'll work on our offense again next week.
3rd and inches for the Argos, and they are gambling at the 48. Congemi will keep. He drives straight ahead, and he should have the 1st down. Now, along that offensive line for the Argos, they do have Chris Schultz and Kelvin Kreutzer at the tackle positions, Bob Skemp and Sean McEwen at guard, and Ian Beckstead at center. So they do have some experience along that offensive line, which is a plus for John Congemi with all the new people he is working with in the backfield and at the receiving positions.
Well, you see what Bob Obilovich says. You know, he wants to be #1. I don't think that's pressure. I think it's an opportunity. I think the quarterback always wants to be the starter. If he doesn't want to play, doesn't want to be the starter, then he probably shouldn't be on the club. And I know John Congemi wants to be the starter. It's just that he's working with a tough bunch of guys right now.
He's throwing deep, looking down those sidelines for Paco Craig, and it is incomplete. He overthrew the intended receiver. David McCrary was back covering.
Wasn't a bad thing to do. He threw those 2 hitch passes on Ron Hopkins. The first one, Paco Craig got 6 yards. The second one, we mentioned that Hopkins got up there right now to almost knock it down. You got to get him off of him. So he throws it deep, but he caught him in his zone, and as a result, McCrary's back there. But that's not a bad thing to do. That's what they say. And Jimmy has great field sense, so he knows what he's doing.
2nd and 10 from the 48-yard line. And Jimmy fumbles the football, and Calgary will pick it up. Fields appears to have the football, a big turnover, and the Calgary Stampeders will have a 1st and 10. The Calgary Stampeders from the Hamilton Tiger Cats earlier this season, recovering that John Kangemi fumble. It's 1st and 10 Calgary. They are at their own 52-yard line. Tim Petros trying to drive straight ahead, picked up 1 yard before being stopped by Gerald Bayless.
I still got it, Al Pluto.
Well, we see how he got the football. They get a good pass rush on John Kangemi, and all they did is punch the ball out. Howard Fields was there. Talking to Howard yesterday at practice, I said, how's things going? He said, we're playing well, and I'm glad to be here.
There are a number of players on that Calgary roster who spent portions of their career with other teams who are quite delighted with the way things are going in Calgary. Lorenzo Graham is one. He was released by the Toronto Argonauts this year. It was very difficult for him to get a starting job with Gil Fenerty at that running back position, and he has responded since the trade to Calgary. He doesn't get a 1st down, however, and it is a punting situation for the Stampeders. And he's happy in Calgary. Talking to Dan Ferroni, he's very happy in Calgary. Some are speculating that this might be his final season. I think he's going to play at least another year.
Oh, I think so. I think he said he feels rejuvenated. You know, when you start thinking like that this far into the season, you're thinking of playing again, which I think is good because he's not that old. 31 or 32 as an offensive lineman. You're just getting into your main part of your career.
Mike Clemens takes the 3rd down punt by Brent Matich and is tackled by Ken Ford as he gets out to the 12-yard line.
I was a little surprised Calgary came out with great field position and ran both times. But I think the big thing was with the Argonaut offense, I don't think can be fine-tuned tonight. You get them pinned in deep, you got a chance for turnovers and mistakes. And if you do that, it makes the defense look good and it gets your offense points.
John Kangemi coming into this game not 100%. His shoulder is still bothering him. He hurt that shoulder 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and he sat out last week. He didn't even dress, but I think with the left shoulder, he should be far enough along to play.
Underwood running for a gain of 12 yards and a big 1st down for the Toronto Argonauts with 9:53 remaining in this opening quarter. Scott?
Well, Don, from the sore shoulder of John Kangemi, we go to Gil Fenerty's pulled hamstring, which has him one of half a dozen faces on the sidelines tonight. You couldn't have played tonight, guys?
No, it's been kind of bugging me all for the past 4 or 5 weeks, and last week in practice it pulled, and you know, Obese, you know, decided it was probably better to take a week off and you know, let Terry in there. He's been looking good in practice, and it won't be too long because I don't want to let him forget about me.
Right, so you'll be back next week, you hope. All right, yeah. Thank you, Gil. Don?
Yes, Gil, you never want to let a guy get in there for too long. Remember what happened with the New York Yankees.
I can't remember the guy's name. That's right. He had a headache one day.
And Lou Gehrig went in.
Played 2,000 straight games. I wonder if the guy's headache ever got better.
Warren Hudson picked up about 3 yards. It will be 2nd and 6. Let's give him a 4-yard gain. And Underwood will get a 1st down out to the 38-yard line. Pretty good selection of play calling so far by Kangemi.
And using Underwood as a main threat, you know, Gil Fenerty, if you stopped him, you stopped the Argonauts. So right now, Underwood adds a little bit of a dimension, a lot like Fenerty. He hit the hole quick on the one run that he gained good yardage, and he showed circling out of the backfield into the middle. He's got good hands and knows what to do with the ball later.
Those might be the biggest elbow pads I've ever seen a back wear.
Well, maybe they're linemen. You know, he's only 5'7", so...
Penalty flag on the play as Underwood goes down after picking up about 1.5 yards. And we'll wait for the interpretation from referee Dave Ewell. Offside Calgary, so the Toronto Argonauts will be looking at 1st and 5 as the yardage will be marched off against Calgary.
He's going to have to speak up. We can't quite hear him. Big thing is, you said play selection. I think that's what a lot of the Argo fans have been disenchanted with about their football team this year. they haven't liked their play selection. I'm going to have to keep watching and see if they're signaling him into Congemi or are they letting him call his own. I would say they're signaling him in, but right now I don't know. But anyway, they've mixed it up pretty well.
The offside provides Toronto with 1st and 5. Down the sidelines, intended for Bell. That pass was just over the head of Howard Fields, the defensive back. Had Bell been able to catch up with it, he was gone.
That's a good job by Howard Fields of disguising the defense first. First, he went up and showed man-to-man, and then he got outside in a hurry. But as you say, Bell got outside. Only the hit from Junior Thurman prevented him from getting that step or so downfield to be in position to catch the football. Thurman did his job in his own defense, slow that receiver down. That allows Fields to get out there. But as you say, Curtis Bell was behind him.
It's 2nd and 5, Toronto. They are at their own 42-yard line. And there is a penalty flag, and John Congemi just stepped back from the line of scrimmage. He saw something there that he obviously didn't like.
I think, too, and he looked down the field, and he's looking right at the 20-second clock, and I think there was 1 second on it. No way was he going to get the signals called, so he just backed right out of it.
So that makes it a little more difficult. It's now 2nd and 10 for the Argos. Jimmy calling this play from his own 37-yard line. Penalty flag, and there's going to be an interference call against Howard Fields on Slater to Zaleski.
Howard Fields jumped right on the back, and the ball was coming through. The referee's looking right at it. We'll get a look at it. Here comes Hoskins off the ball, one-on-one on Howard Fields. He gives him his bump. That's okay. Now as he goes across the field, he pushed him right in the back, and the referee's standing right there and throws the flag, so the Argonauts get the 1st down.
1st and 10 from the 48-yard line. 7:09 remaining in this opening quarter. With time, intended for Bell, incomplete. Congemi was looking off to his left, and then he came over the middle to Bell, but just missed him with that pass. And I think Congemi realizes it was his fault.
That's right. It was a good idea, though, Don. As you say, he looked to his left. He read what he wanted over there, so he knew he had one-on-one coverage backside. Curtis Bell on Junior Thurman. He just threw the ball too far inside because Bell was open underneath.
2nd and 10, Toronto. The Argos are at their own 48-yard line. Still no score in the ball game. We have played almost 9 minutes of this first quarter. This one is almost intercepted. Good coverage by Hopkins over on the far side, working against Paco Craig. And Toronto will be forced into a punting situation.
That was excellent coverage. When he ran down and ran the hook pattern and tried to come back to the football, Hopkins came right back to his inside, and it looked like he ran the pattern better than the receiver. He's going to have to be careful now. That's 2 he's thrown out there that Hopkins has been very, very close to.
Just 1 man back for this 3rd down kick by Glenn Harper, and that is David McCrary.
Backfield. Only 2 yards separate those two as far as total yards rushing. And Larry Willis has that string of have never gone a game without a completion. He needs to have a big game for him, especially for a young quarterback.
48 consecutive games for Larry Willis, and this is Mark Zeno, a favorite target of quarterback Terrence Jones. They were teammates, and Zeno comes into this ball game as a replacement for Andre Alexander.
Yeah, they moved Zeno to the wide receiver spot and put Brock Smith at the slot back. Zeno would be more accustomed to playing that wide out position and catching passes from Terrence Jones as a wide receiver, so maybe he's more at home. We saw him in the slot, didn't do very much.
1st and 10. The Stampeders at their own 43-yard line. 5:37 is the time remaining in this still scoreless opening quarter. Jones is under some pressure now. Tried to dump it off to Tim Petros, and Petros takes a hit from Bruce Holmes just as that ball sailed over his head.
Yeah, Bruce Holmes, who's been the middle linebacker every game for the Argonauts, has moved to the outside linebacker position because Chris Gaines, newly acquired linebacker that played at Vanderbilt last year, is now the starting middle linebacker. He's not very big, only 6 foot, but 235 pounds. Gerald Bayless has had good penetration every game we've done. Kulka's back, and he needs to sack the quarterback. They got to win on defense tonight.
Jones indicating he wants Willis to go deep. He makes the catch down the sidelines, and he was in bounds. And not only does he provide the Stampeders with a big first down, he extends the streak now to 49 consecutive games, catching at least one pass.
And especially it's a nice catch on a long pass. Look what Jones buys the time. This is what the young guy has to do. Get outside. Now he's going to get in trouble. Just throws it up high. He figures if Willis doesn't get it, no one's going to get it. And what happens is Ed Berry doesn't turn around when the ball's in the air. Willis brings it down right on the sidelines.
Did he go out of bounds? I thought he went out of bounds over on the sidelines.
He could have. I don't know. If he was pushed out, it's okay. If he went on his own, it shouldn't have counted. I don't really know. I wasn't watching that part. I was watching Jones scramble.
Well, the question is, was he forced out of bounds?
We'll get a look at it here, maybe. There he goes. No, he's not out of bounds here. He's back in. He would have had to go out earlier. That's a pretty good catch. Get that foot down in bounds.
He was in bounds when he made the catch, but in attempting to run his pattern, he may have been bumped out of bounds and came back into the field of play. It's 1st and 10 from just inside the 40. Good fake by Jones. And now he's being pursued by Hallman. He throws this one deep into the end zone. Zeno's got it.
Was after him, wasn't he? Terrence Jones showed great speed just getting outside. He did a wise thing, I thought, just throwing the ball deep. But all of a sudden, there's Mark Zeno appears and makes a nice catch for a touchdown.
Coach Larry Koharic was really high on Jones early in the season when we visited with him. And Jones, at the time, was coming off a training camp injury. And I've been impressed with what I've seen from Jones in this first quarter here at the Sky Dome. 2 fine passes, one to Larry Willis to set up the touchdown throw to Mark Zeno. And now the point after by McLaughlin, and it's 7-0, the Calgary Stampeders. It's interesting that when you look at that Toronto offense, there is only one player who has scored a touchdown this season.
And he's not on the field. I was looking at the stats last night, Don. It was a waste of time. I mean, none of these guys have done anything. Ryan Hansen scored a touchdown. He doesn't start.
Underwood picks up about 3 yards for the Toronto Argonauts. There is the new linebacker that Ron Lancaster spoke about earlier as one of the defensive keys. That is Chris Gaines.
I just looked at the eyes, and he got the bad-looking eyes. The reason that they feel that he didn't stick in the National Football League is he's not tall enough. 235, he's built well enough, but height is a problem. This game would be made for him because he's got good speed, and I know if he went to Vanderbilt, he's pretty smart.
But it's the eyes that give those linebackers away. Hoskins takes that pass over the middle, but he's brought down short of the first down by Matt Finlay. They all have that fierce, penetrating look that seems to go right through.
Right through. I mean, you look at him, you want to look away from him in a hurry before you make him mad. Again, Hoskins, we said he'll get a lot of work tonight because he's the only one with any experience. He wanted to throw this ball down farther, a little bit deeper, but they made him throw underneath by dropping the linebackers. Then you see Finley come right up and make the hit. That's a good job by the linebackers, forces them to kick the football.
3:35 remaining in this opening quarter. Calgary in front 7-0 on the Mark Zeno touchdown. Glenn Harper in his second game as a Toronto Argonaut, a former Calgary Stampeder, punting from the 25-yard line, and David McCrary will accept it at about the 30. They had this return set up the last time Toronto punted. They're coming close to springing this one for a big game. There's a penalty flag, a late penalty call. One of the sideline officials threw it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be on the sideline somewhere because they had that just about set.
Objectionable conduct. Toronto number 18, first down.
Floyd Salazar gets called for objectionable conduct, taking the ball out to the 45-yard line.
I didn't see what happened to him, but somebody was, he had to be upset. But you mentioned, Don, he needed to break the man that made the tackle. If he breaks that one and gets behind those white jerseys over there, he's going to go a long way because they had it set well.
1st and 10 from the 45-yard line. Jones gives the ball to Tim Petros, and Petros is across the 52, about the 52, stopped by Bruce Holmes.
Well, that's not a bad way to look at it. He's right. It's ancient history. The game is gone. We got to come out and play hard. very difficult to win 2 games in a row, back-to-back against anybody, especially when you come into their field second. So you got to get ready to go and don't get psyched out about all those changes. Just go play football.
Lorenzo Graham won't get the first down. But one thing the Calgary players appreciated about this past week is that Coach Kaharick gave them a couple of extra days off. They were certainly familiar with what the Toronto Argonauts would do.
Lead draw. You can get him up inside, hope he can find room to run. No room. Harding and Gaines are there to make the hit. But Don, giving guys time off. If you practice 6 straight days from Sunday to Sunday, or in this case Friday to Saturday, that's a long time against the same team. You're not going to change that much. Give them some time off, let them rest, let them get their legs back. They'll be ready.
Carl Brazeley watches that Matic punt bounce out of bounds at the 19-yard line. Good kick by the rookie Calgary punter. A 38-yard boot, but the most important aspect as far as Larry Kaharick is concerned, there was no run back.
Sure, you'll take that ball downfield 40 yards and no return every time as a coach. Sometimes you see those guys boom that thing 60 yards and the guy runs it back 40. The big thing is the exchange and the number of yards that you gain. That ball went out of bounds and you got him backed up in. We're going to take a look at Matic. He gets the ball up, and the reason he does, he gets a good block from Lorenzo Graham on Reggie Pleasant that was coming in to try to block the kick. That's what he's there for.
Good fake by Kangemi to buy some extra time, and he gets Bell on the sidelines for a first down.
Curtis Bell was the #1 draft choice for the Hamilton Tiger Cats in last year's CFL draft. Played with the Burlington Junior Ticats last year. A little bit of a play action. There it is, the bootleg. Get outside. Bob Scamp leading. Throw it to the sideline. Curtis Bell goes deep and comes right back. Settles under it. Catches with the feet on the ground, then step out of bounds. Howard Fields coming from the forced position. Doesn't get there in time.
So Curtis Bell provides the Argos with a first down. There's an injury delay. Bob Scamp is down. Now, Ron pointed out that he was back blocking on Will Johnson. I think as Johnson put his hand out, a finger might have gone into the eye of the Argo offensive lineman.
Yeah, that's about all it could be from where they're looking at him, but he was just trying to stay up on Johnson, not commit himself, keep running, force Johnson to pick a side, then he can block him. He did a good job, and that does happen sometime. When you're trying to get rid of a blocker, that finger can get through there.
Now, most times you see defensive players wearing the shields. Some of the offensive players might start wearing them. You see right there, as Johnson attempts to push off Bob Scamp, that finger goes up into the face mask and into the eye.
Yeah, I think we'll see him with the eye guard on. I don't blame those guys for putting those eye shields on, offense or defense. Don't get the hands through there. They can't afford to have many people into it. Blaine Schmidt now comes in to replace Bob Scamp. He's the backup lineman. They used to have 2 of them. With Kardash hurt, now they're down to 1. So we got to hope it's just the eye and nothing too serious.
Well, the Toronto Argonauts are 6 points behind the second-place Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Eastern Division, and now 8 behind the first-place Hamilton Tiger Cats, overtime winners 2019 last night over the Blue Bombers.
That was a big win for Hamilton because I think it gives them 2 wins now, doesn't it, over Winnipeg? And in that series, they should end up tied. They'll have the advantage.
1:25 the time remaining in this opening quarter. Kangemi fakes again, rolls out. Good protection. Intended for Hoskins. It went off his fingertips. The throw may have just been a little high.
Came right back with the bootleg action the other way this time. The defense ends up in a zone, so when the wide receiver comes back, he's not open, so you go to the next hole, and Hoskins is coming through there. I think he has to catch that football. It's a little bit high, but he still has to get it.
Sorry, Ron. Sean McEwen out blocking for John Kangemi. This is his birthday today. He's 27.
6'5", 285. I think he's done growing, maybe.
Penalty flag, and Kangemi faces a horde of Calgary tacklers. Will Johnson was there. So was Flint Fleming. But it is a holding call against Blaine Schmidt, working against Mitchell Price. And it will be waved off by the Calgary Stampeders. They will take that quarterback sack by number 81, Will Johnson. Bob Skemp on the bench, and it appears as though he is having no further difficulties in seeing out of that eye. Glenn Harper goes back for this third down kick from the 10-yard line. Wayne Schmidt snapping the ball on third down. Good kick by Harper. And with that Sky Dome roof closed, it is sometimes a little tough to see and follow the flight of that ball on a long pass or on a high punch.
It comes down out of those lights, and there's one spot that Coach Koharic can talk to some of the receivers from other games. There's one spot for a while that you lose sight of it, so you have to see it go up, judge where it's coming down, and keep concentrating on it.
53-yard kick, taking the ball back to the 35-yard line. Now you see the roof and you see those lights. When you're following the flight of the ball, if that ball gets in those lights, you lose sight of it.
Yeah, you see it go up, you see it disappear, but you have to know where it went in so you know where it's coming out. And that's what the receivers talked about.
An option to Lorenzo Graham. Gaines was over there covering, and he restricts the gain to about 2 yards as Ed Berry came up to help out.
We talked a while ago about Terrence Jones, allowing him to do what he does best. Option football. Now, that's very unusual at a professional level. As we said, Terrence Jones in his first year, he's used to that. He'll come down the line with the ball in his hand and take the hits. I know he doesn't want to take too many, but pitch it quick. So he allows him to do it because he's comfortable with it. Each year, he'll change.
Well, I think Koharic has done an admirable job of bringing this young man along. He's allowed him to develop slowly. That pass knocked down by Gerald Bayless. There was some pressure to get Jones right back into the lineup as soon as he was ready to play. Of Dan Ferroni, who is back home for this game. Carl Brazeley on the third down punt return draws a penalty flag as he dances along the sidelines trying to pick up a few additional yards. 7-0, the Stampeders lead it. The Argos had more first downs, but two big passes from quarterback Terrence Jones, first to Larry Willis and then the touchdown throw to Mark Zeno, have made the difference, even though the Argos had the football for twice as long as Calgary in that opening quarter.
As you said, the two big passes, the one to Willis and the one to Zeno, but John's got to get first down. All he can think about is making first down. With new people in there, the longer you stay on the field, the better they'll work together. So he's got to try to put together a drive that ends up with points.
Underwood is tracked down by Ken Ford after a pickup of about 1 yard. One thing about it for Kajemi, with the Argos only trailing 7-0, he can still afford to be patient.
I think he's going to be patient regardless. I mean, the only time he needs to panic is if they come to the fourth quarter down 28 points or something. But right now, stay with your game plan, get the receivers used to the game, get into the flow of the game, throw the ball to the right people and make first downs. Don't panic. I mean, 7 points is nothing in this game.
Movement at the line of scrimmage, but no penalty flags. Will Johnson is after Kajemi. He gets it away to Underwood, and Underwood is bounced out of bounds short of the first down.
John Kajemi had a screen pass called. He set it up very well as he dropped back in the pocket. He started to float back, look to his left. I think he was going to throw it to Hudson, but he couldn't get out because Mitchell Price had a hold of him. So Kajemi had to do what he did. That's run around with a football and holler for help.
Chris Schultz actually did a pretty good job of holding that block on Will Johnson.
Well, that's tough to do because, you know, the linemen here screen, they count 1,001, 1,002, 1,003. That ball's gone. Then they start to leave, but he stayed with them and helped them.
13:38 remaining in the first half as Glenn Harper punts from his own 20-yard line. Good high kick. McCrary waits for it at the 33. What happened 1 year ago today. Ben Johnson's run to an apparent gold medal in a world record time of 9:79. Lorenzo Graham, the ball carrier, again on that option play, and he picked up yards before being tackled by Richard Brothers.
Well, this is college football at its best. Comes out of here, he makes the fake. Now he reverses. It's a reverse option. Turns, flips that ball out left-handed, just like the college quarterback. And then Lorenzo Graham does the rest with it. Terrence Jones, pretty good athlete.
First and 10 from midfield. Jones on the run, throws to Larry Willis. He fumbles the ball, and it's recovered by Toronto. he was trying to shift hands with that football, and it just went flying away. And all Larry Herrick can do is shrug his shoulders.
I saw a lot of people in the Calgary bench thought he never had control of it. They thought it was an incomplete pass, but action. He reads the receiver, the defender deep, so see it. We'll see a good look at it. Ball was swinging around. As you say, he was trying to get control of it. He looked up to see what happened, and the ball disappeared. It bounced right back in his hands, but the hit that he took caused it to come out. So it's a break for the Argos. Those are the kind of hits that you usually get a little bit of a nick on.
1st and 10, Toronto. The Argos are at their own 49-yard line. Jemmy goes deep for Slater Zaleski. He can't hang on. And Father Joe, watching up in Edmonton, I'm sure is thinking to himself, oh boy, Slater, you had your opportunity there. Joe Zaleski, of course, a former quarterback with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and a coach with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers during the Bud Grant regime.
See, he got right behind number 3, Dave McCrary, but he wasn't able to hang on. Paco Craig, I know, looking at it from a quarterback standpoint, came in a little bit too far and brought the defender with him. I don't know if that bothered him or not, but the ball was catchable.
2nd and 10. Incomplete. It was intended for Underwood, and the Argos send out the punting unit again.
You saw Vernell Quinn, number 45, when he comes into the football game to play the linebacker's position in front of Matt Finley. Then they bring Kent Warnock in to play defensive end. The strange part there is Warnock's are leading sacker with 10, and he doesn't even play all the time.
What was that last call?
Harper at his own 35 for this 3rd down punt. You know, I think one of these times, the way the Calgary Stampeders have been setting up, they're going to break one of these for a big, big game. Good coverage this time. The ball is fumbled. Toronto's got it. .25 remains in the half. You're watching Foster's CFL on CBC.
Well, you see Reg Berry's 3rd fumble recovery, but he's also the man that stripped the ball loose. He did a good job on McCrary. He got that right arm out and hooked it, and it came loose, and he ended up getting the recovery also. So it's time now to put points on the board.
1st and 10 from the 18-yard line. The pitch to Clemens. Clemens is going to throw it. He does. Hoskins will score. Well, that is a new wrinkle to the Argo offense.
Saw him do that yesterday in practice. He came out and threw off the toss. They could put that stat up for any of their receivers that they have in the ball game. But that was a well-executed play. Kenny Ford, the linebacker, 97 for Calgary, made a heck of a play to try to get Clemens just before he threw it. But he just wasn't able to dive and make the tackle, and then he's wide open, and Hoskins goes in.
Well, 2 consecutive turnovers by the Calgary Stampeders provide the Argos with their chance to score, and it was Mike Pinball Clemens who threw the pass to Eric Hoskins for the touchdown. This, I think, fooled the Stampeders. It looked to run all the way. Clemens taking off. I mean, he really looked as though he was going to run, and suddenly, there it is to Hoskins.
He paid the price, too. Landry put a good hit on him. But Hoskins, as you see, when he caught the football, all the linebackers were up chasing Clemens. He had nobody to worry about. He just walked in. But as you say, it run all the way. The only difference, they didn't pull a lineman. They didn't pull one. They all just kind of reached along, and they let Warren Hudson do the blocking, and then let Clemens run as far as he could before he threw the football. Well executed by the Argonauts.
Well, the smallest man in the team comes up with the biggest play so far. Clemens throwing to Hoskins for the touchdown. Is tied at 7. 11 minutes remaining in this 1st half here at the Sky Dome. The Argos trying to put the brakes on a 4-game losing streak. Stampeders attempting to break out of a deadlock in the West with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Lorenzo Graham on the kickoff return from the 15-yard line. Gray's Graisley with a good move to break through and make the tackle. Scott?
Well, Don, you're only as good as your last game, and quarterback Gil Renfro, now a former Argo, knows all about it. He almost won the Grey Cup for the Argos 2 years ago, the CFL's leading passer last year, but the Argos gave up on him this year, and we'll get reaction from head coach Bob Obilovich on Inside the CFL at halftime. We'll also be joined live by Rick Johnson, a potential Renfro replacement, and we'll go to Edmonton to speak live with Joe Farragelli, whose Eskimos play the BC Lions at Commonwealth Stadium on CBC TV tomorrow afternoon.
Lorenzo Graham trying to get to the outside, and he was tracked down by linebacker Gaines.
Well, they're getting good effort from that defense. Kulka and Moan got into the backfield in a hurry. They said, Bob Obilovich said yesterday at the press conference, we've got to shut down the run, force Jones to beat us by throwing the football. They feel if they do that, then they have the advantage. He said, if we allow them to run, we're in for a long evening. And this is why that defense has to play well.
Well, the Argonaut problem hasn't been defensive. It's been their offensive production, or lack of it, to be more correct. And that pass to Brock Smith produces a first down, but I think this is going to be brought back by a holding call.
Leo Blanchard that's what he moved out of his stance. That's too bad, because it was a big play for Terrence Jones and the Stampeders. It gets him out in great field position, but he lifted up at the right tackle position. He raised up.
59, second down.
To the left of your screen, watch the tackle. The second guy, there he is. He moves. Referee sees that 2 flags flew in a hurry.
Well, it's a procedure and not a holding call that brings the ball back to the 29-yard line. Seven is the score. Second and 11. Jones almost stumbled, managed to get the pass away, and Tim Petrus got back to the line of scrimmage, and that was about it. So the Stampeders will be forced to kick.
Sorry, Don. Hallman and Bayless again had the pressure on him, chasing him around back there. Bayless got up the middle, chased him out of the pocket, and then Hallman took it from there and forced him to throw it short, which, as you say, gained absolutely nothing, so they have to punt the football.
Matic will kick from his own 13-yard line. Graisley is back. Graisley takes it at the 40-yard line. Breaks a couple of tackles and then goes out of bounds up at the 49.
He made all those yards on his own because the Argonauts had to block. They tried to block the punt, so they had no one dropping back to help out. He just made a couple good moves and stepped inside and picked up some yards.
First and 10, Toronto. The Argos are at their own 49-yard line. The score tied at 7. Throwing the screen to Hudson. Good reaction by the Stampeders as Flint Fleming and Eugene Beliveau got back to make the stop.
He has Hoskins hooking downfield in case that linebacker fires. If he does, he can dump it off. The linebackers dropped. They got the pressure from Eugene Beliveau coming from the backside along with Fleming, and that forced him to throw the screen. He didn't have time to hold the football.
Second and 7. Jemmy goes to the sidelines, and again Slater Zaleski is unable to haul it in. That time he really had to extend himself to try and make the catch.
Good catch, had been able to hang on. You're diving straight out off the ground. You can't really control your body, and then he still had to reach high to try to get it. But it does bounce off his hands. Watch. He'll go out. He'll lay out to try to get it. Just off the fingertips. He needed about 3 more inches to get those hands under it, and he could pull it in.
8:12 is the time remaining in the first half. The Stampeders and the Argos deadlocked at 7. Another good high kick by Glenn Harper. McCrary waits for it at the 15. For an illegal block by Craig Watson. That takes the ball back to the 10-yard line, where Terrence Jones faces first and 10. Tim Petros picks up about 3 yards. It's going to be tough to run against this Toronto Argonaut defense.
Very hard to run inside with Bayless and Hallman in there. They're both they're like bookends, about 6 foot tall, 240, and quick.
Over the past 10 years, each side has won 5 games and very little in the way of points scored by either team. A year ago in Toronto at CNE Stadium, Bob Ovilovich saw Gil Fennerty run for 215 yards. 1988. He'd like to have him in the lineup for this one. Lorenzo Graham makes the throw, or makes the catch. Brought down by the safety, Richard Brothers, but not before he got up to the 42-yard line.
Watch to the right of your screen. You'll see number 33 and number 85 coming down the field together. 85, Brock Smith, goes to the corner. Lorenzo Graham comes right in behind linebacker Chris Gaines, makes a nice catch. Well-thrown football.
A 30-yard gain for the former Argo tailback, and that takes Terrence Jones out of difficulty and gives him some room to work with. Again, there's that option toss to Lorenzo Graham. It will be a gain of 9 more. Lorenzo Graham took a pretty good hit from Harold Hallman just as he pitched it out to Graham.
Well, I'll tell you, it's again, they have that pattern play where they turn and they give the ball to Petros. Next time they fake it and run that option. And just as Terrence Jones turns, watch him turn, he'll pitch the ball. Watch number 70. Jones sees him coming and very wisely hits the deck as soon as he makes his pitch. Graham turns it into a good carry. Takes a pretty good hit from number 58, Bruce Holmes. Watch it. Here it comes. Smart. Get out of the way. You don't want to allow a guy that's 245 pounds coming straight at you with his head. Get down.
Actually, Harold Hallman really didn't put a hit on Jones. I thought when I saw him go down out of the corner of my eye that he went down because of the hit by Hallman, but he anticipated that contact and he went to the ground himself.
That's why you practice that option play. When you do practice it, you have to know where the ball carrier is, so when you just flip it, then you can see what's happening. He gets it out here. Now Graham hits straight. Number 58 come in and hit him first, and then I think he got tangled up with Willis and everybody else, and that's how he was injured.
Andy McVeigh into the ball game as a replacement for Graham, and he won't get the first down. John Conjemi taking a breather on the bench and now thinking to himself, well, those guys I'm working with today are a little more familiar now that they've had a quarter and a half to play.
I wonder if he still has the name tag on the huddle.
It's going.
John Conjemi's had one of those careers. You know, every time he's gotten to play, he's gotten injured, and it throws his whole series and whole season out of whack.
I think the Stampeders are short one man. They're going to take a time count violation. Doug Landry was supposed to be on the field, but he is on the bench, and they're going to let that clock run down, and there goes the whistle.
Time count violation. Calgary number 4. Third down repeated.
Coach Kuharek wasn't too pleased about that. That's one thing that'll really upset coaches. You know, you know what team you're on. Be on the field. I think he told him that. He was in a good mood today for the game. Him, Joe Kapp was there, standing talking. You know, he coached with Joe Kapp out in California.
Joe Kapp, a former Calgary quarterback and a former BC Lion quarterback. Clemens on this punt return is brought down at the 12-yard line by Marshall Toner. That was a good kick by Glenn Harper, a 48-yard kick.
Matty supposedly has outkicked his opposition in 8 games so far this year. He's doing a good job for him, hitting the ball well. And McLaughlin, they're kicking games in good hands with McLaughlin and Mattich.
I believe I said Glenn Harper. It was Mattich who was punting on third down. Harper is the Argo punter.
Well, last year he did.
Last year, yes, that's true.
I think it was last year.
5:16 remaining in the half. Warren Hudson picks up just a couple of yards.
Having a little trouble getting the running game going. This has been one of the Argonaut problems. Gil Fennerty jumped out with some fantastic games early in the season, but as longer the season went, the more apparent it became that if you took Fennerty out of the offense and forced him to throw, you beat him. And they still aren't able to get this running game going.
Craig comes wide left. Dell splits right.
Let me know.
Jimmy will get a chance. He will get a chance to throw. It looked as though he was going to be trapped. And making the catch on the sidelines is Bell for a first down. So Kajemi was going down back at about the 2-yard line.
That's a good job of scrambling around because he definitely got the pressure. Pressure came at him up the middle. Tank Landry is the first guy to chase him out of there. And then Curtis Bell just sat on the sidelines and made the catch for the first down. Watch Tank Landry come around up the middle. Watch him grab his jersey right there. Try to hold him out. Skimp couldn't hold him, but they chased him out of the pocket, but he made the first down.
Hudson, the ball carrier, for about 2 more. It will be 2nd and 8.
Underwood comes in for Clemens, who was in on first down. He brings the play in from the sideline.
Mike Clemens with 1 touchdown throw. That equals the number that Gilbert Renfro was able to put into the end zone and is just 3 behind the number that John Kajemi has thrown. Another catch by Bell up to the 45-yard line for a first down.
Curtis Bell's making his presence felt tonight. He's been waiting for a chance to play. Lives in Hamilton, as we said, drafted by the Ticats, played with the Burlington Junior Ticats last year. Just down, turn to the inside, find a hole and wait for the football. Up, makes the catch, lands on his back, but not before he gets another first down.
3 receptions for 38 yards, 15 on the last catch by Curtis Bell. Kajemi going deep. Intended for Hoskins, incomplete. He was bumping with Howard Fields and trying to run his pattern.
They had man-to-man coverage downfield with Greg Peterson, the safety, sitting free in the middle. So wherever he throws the football, Peterson should show up. And Howard Fields had him covered pretty well. He was not open.
A lot of young fans in this crowd of 30,000 plus at the Sky Dome tonight on a cool September day in Toronto. And with the threat of rain in the forecast, the roof to the Sky Dome tonight is closed. 2nd and 10 from the 45-yard line. Almost intercepted by McCrary, intended for Slater Zaleski.
You could almost see that one coming. McCrary allowed Zaleski to get on, break to the outside, and then he just cut to the inside. He had him all the way. He picks that one off. He was gone.
Kajemi glancing up at the large scoreboard in Toronto as they replay that last pass. You're watching Foster's CFL on CBC, live from Toronto. Glenn Harper punting on 3rd down for the Argos, who have a record of 4-7. 3 of those wins have occurred here at the Sky Dome. They have one of the worst road records in the CFL, winning just 1 time away from home. That lone win was at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa.
There it is.
Here's that return by McCrary. And again, he came close to breaking it all the way. They've been setting that up ever since the first punt by Glenn Harper. And a couple of times earlier, Herrick almost saw Glenn Harper or David McCrary break it all the way.
Yesterday at the press conference when Larry Herrick walked in, he just got off the bus. Kevin Gallant was there, his PR guy was here, and he sat down. They asked him, have you seen the roster changes for the Argonauts? He said, yeah, I just learned about it from our PR guy here. He says, is Underwood the kid from Wagner? They said, yeah. He says, is Bedford the kid from California? I coached him. He says, how about Craig? Is he from UCLA? They said, yeah. He said, I saw him play. I'm not worried about them. Them all. They know exactly what's going on. I guess when you're in charge of the football operation, you have to worry about the scouting and everything. You know where they're from.
Yeah, as a coach, there shouldn't be too many secrets with other teams.
No, I wouldn't think so.
We remind you to stay tuned after the game for the Foster's MVP. 2:24 is the time remaining. Chris Schultz having an ankle retaped as he watches that Toronto defense attempt to hold Calgary on 2nd and 10. It looks as though they're trying to set up the screen. Good move by Jones to get away from Tonka. He almost lost his shoulder pad in the process.
You know why that screen didn't work? Because Lorenzo Graham and Tim Petros both went to the same side for the screen, and they had the screen set the other way, and no one to throw the football to. I saw the screen being set and couldn't understand why there wasn't a back out there with the lineman.
Penalty flag.
Referee number 65 declined. Third down.
Sean McEwen guilty of the holding call. The penalty on that incomplete pass declined, and Matic will punt from his own 25-yard line. As Matic goes down, Carl Braisley takes that third down kick, and there's a penalty flag as he is stopped in his tracks at the 37-yard line.
Another flag down here. Salazar and Jim Yock were involved in something right around midfield, right in front of the official. We'll have to see who it's called on. .205 is the time.
Well, he's on that team right there. Tell him, Ellis. Give him his hands.
I think Bill. I think you should be a little more blunt. Come right on and speak what's on your mind, Bob.
Holding. Toronto number 18. First down.
That's the second time that Salazar has been called.
In 2 quarters of football, that's too many. Jim Yock really had a hard time getting off the field. He really was limping badly coming over. Sitting down there getting tended to on the bench by Pat Clayton.
And Jemmy flipping it out for Hudson. Linebacker Ford had moved over to cover, and the throw from Conjemi was just a little high.
Try to hook that inside receiver, in this case Hoskins, and send Hudson in the flat. Read the outside linebacker and go to the open man. Just do it a little bit too high for Hudson to pull down.
Clemens goes into the ball game. Underwood comes out for the Argos on 2nd and 10 from the 25-yard line. Seems to be some uncertainty as to just where people should be.
Don't let up until they blow it, then. Come on,
I think the 20-second clock ran out on him.
But there was also some uncertainty among the people in the backfield as to where they should be and how they should line up.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Ewell explaining to Tank Landry the options on this play, the penalty call against the Argos with 1:57 left.
I don't know what kind of options you'd have. They never ran a play. The whistle blew before the play was run.
Offside. Toronto number 23 before the play. Second down.
Yeah, okay. Take 5. I was going to say, they didn't play. I wonder what he was talking about. Just march it out and let's go.
2nd and 15 from the 20-yard line. Hoskins, who has scored the lone Toronto touchdown, was offside on the play. Conjemi over the middle is intercepted. McCrary stepped in front of Hoskins to haul in that pass and give the Calgary Stampeders a first down at the 42 of the Argos, and Bob Bogdanovich is not at all pleased.
Just dropped back into his zone. McCrary just dropped back and read the quarterback, and when Hoskins cut into the middle, watch him. Going to get a good look at it. Watch to the left of your screen. You'll see McCrary just dropping back. Here comes Hoskins, cut right in front of him, catch the football. Go to the ball when it's in the air.
And Tom Porras has moved in as the quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, and Porras is going deep, intended for Willis, incomplete.
Get in!
Now Tom will throw the football. He loves to throw. It's quite a change, you know, the difference between Jones. What he does is put him in, do his thing as long as he can, then put a guy in that can throw. Tom can run the football, but that's not his strength.
There's an injured Toronto Argonaut, and Porras takes advantage of the delay to move over to the bench and confer with Coach Larry Kaharick. Gerald Bayless, I believe, is the player who is down. And coming into the ball game is Bronco Vincent.
A lot of Eastern Michigan players now all of a sudden. A lot of Canadian kids going down there playing football, coming back. Matt Finley's in there, Bronco Vincent's in there, a couple more of them. Can't think of them just offhand, but I know there's a couple more.
So Vincent will move into that defensive tackle position. Harold Hallman at the other spot with Harding and Palka on the outside.
Bayless has had a good season so far for the Argonauts. He seems to be the guy that gets the penetration inside. He gets upfield, forces quarterbacks out of the pocket, and hopefully then Palka and Harding will be then there to pick them up.
Second and 10.
Go!
Horace throwing to the sidelines for Zeno. He's got it for a first down.
Yeah, he's out of bounds. He's out of bounds.
Jones and Zeno may have been an effective collegiate combination, but Zeno is also obviously going to be a favorite target of Tom Porras as well.
Quarterbacks will throw to anybody that's going to catch him. They came after him a little bit of a blitz. He landed out of bounds with the football, but the reason he did is that Barry hit him in the air and knocked him out of bounds. He would have come down in bounds. The referee gives him the catch.
Jones and Zeno, of course, playing collegiately at Tulane. First and 10. Larry Willis was open on the sidelines, but that pass was out of bounds, and it will be second and 10. 1:33 in the half. The Stampeders trying to put it into the end zone before they head to the dressing room.
Under the stands.
Second and 10. The ball is at the 28 of the Toronto Argonauts. Were able to score their touchdown as the result of Calgary turnovers. Now Calgary attempting to do the same thing. I'm not quite sure where that pass was intended, but it was well over the head of Lorenzo Graham.
Well, that's who he's throwing to. Lorenzo Graham coming out of the backfield. Porras sprinted to his left behind the tackle. Graham swung out to the right back across the middle, but the pressure inside forced Porras to throw the football, and it fell to the ground, no one around it.
McLaughlin will attempt a field goal of 35 yards. Brent Mattich will hold. The kick is wide, but it sails through the end zone for a single point.
Chance to forget.
Hudson with a good move to cut to the outside. He had a first down anyway, but he picked up about 12 more with that fake and the outside move.
That was a good job of running. Normally, when he comes up through, he just turns straight ahead and runs till he's hit. This time, he puts a pretty good move on. He gets outside of everybody. Watch the job the offensive line do for him as he comes up through the middle. Just a draw. Here he comes. Straight up through. Big hole. Now, normally, he goes straight ahead, but watch the bounce. Bounces right outside, turns his speed on, picks up extra yardage.
Back to the live action. First and 10. Kajemi going to the sidelines. It's incomplete. It was intended for Bell. It will be second and 10 with 1:09 remaining in the half.
Curtis Bell have to work a little bit harder on that pattern. He did not force Junior Thurman out of his back pedal, which means when he got him going back, he didn't force him hard. If that ball would have been thrown right on the money, Junior Thurman had a chance to intercept it.
I don't think there was any reason that Jones came out of the ball game and Tom Porras went in. Larry Kuharich wanted to change up.
He does that a lot. He changes things around. He said, I'm not going to just sit here and let it go. I'll change 3-4 times if I have to.
Kajemi throwing deep. Paco Craig was the target, and he was well covered by Ron Hopkins.
Now they say he had him right in his hip pocket. Hopkins was right on the inside hip of Craig, running with him stride for stride. He never had a chance.
So with 1:03 remaining in the half, the Argos are forced into a punting situation. They trail by a score of 8-7. Mark Zeno scoring the touchdown for Calgary, and Eric Hoskins the touchdown for the Toronto Argonauts. Glenn Harbour stands at his own 41-yard line for this third down kick. Prairie waits for it at the 10-yard line. Good downfield coverage this time by the Argos, and they stopped him right at the 10. Schmidt and Elliott after that 44-yard punt.
Well, they've tried to set that wall up to our side of the field, the Calgary side of the field, every time. He just isn't able to get to it. He needed to get outside, couldn't make it, but all the white jerseys were out here, so he just turned and puts his head down and takes what he can.
And Tom Porras, obviously, is going to finish this first half as the Calgary quarterback. Terrence Jones started the game and was responsible for the only touchdown the Stampeders have scored, throwing an end zone strike to Mark Zeno. On the sidelines, the catch is made by Willis, but they rule that he was out of bounds.
Yeah, he was too. The foot, when he caught the football, his foot landed directly on the white line, and the referee's standing right there. He definitely was out of bounds.
Danny Barrett, the former Argo quarterback who was sent to the Calgary Stampeders prior to the start of the season, is on the sidelines watching the game. Not Tom Forrest started as the backup to Terrence Jones. He is now the Calgary quarterback looking at 2nd and 10. Whoa, he was fortunate that he didn't have that intercepted by Carl Graisley. It was intended for Mark Zeno.
Lazy coming in there, just kind of jogged in, and you're not going to get away with that with good defensive backs on you. And right there, he was there, Reggie Pleasant. Watch as the ball's in the air. Zeno doesn't come back to the football. Pleasant does. Pleasant came back and got it. Zeno waited for it. Don't wait on the ball. It'll never get to you.
So with 42 seconds remaining, the Argos have 11 men up at the line of scrimmage. And Clemens is the lone Argo back for this 3rd down kick. He takes it at the midfield stripe. And is brought down at the 48-yard line with 30 seconds remaining. Darcy Kopp is there to make the tackle after that 45-yard kick from the end zone by Brent Maddich.
Field position the way it is right now, they're only going to need about 10 or 12, say 15 yards maximum, and Chami will have a good shot at getting them 3 points in 30 seconds.
Bell goes wide right. Paco Craig splits to the left. Draw play with Hudson to the 40-yard line. And that takes the clock down to 26 seconds remaining in the half. Bob Obilovich yelling to Kangemi to run that hurry-up offense on 2nd down and 3.
Bob needs to relax tonight. He seems to be off on edge. Kangemi he had it going.
Well, that will happen when you're in the midst of a 4-game losing streak.
And you don't know the guys you're talking to. You know what I mean? Come here, what's your name? 18 seconds and a 1st down. You still got time. That's right. Jimmy's got it organized.
That's one of the cameras that they use here at the Sky Dome to provide replays on the Jumbotron scoreboard.
Oh.
This is intercepted by Landry. He'll pitch it out to Hopkins. Back to the 20-yard line with no time left on the clock. Tim Petros running hard to get a gain of 8, maybe even 9 yards. We saw Porras warming up and thought that he was going to be the starting quarterback for the Stampeders in the 2nd half, but Terrence Jones is directing the attack.
And they come with one of their favorite plays. Split backs, a back behind each tackle, and then run a quick trap. Dan Ferroni pulls and leads it, and Petros found the hole.
The receivers to either side of the field. Fake pitch and the handoff to Petros for a 1st down.
That's the play, Don, they ran so well last week in Calgary. They had Lorenzo Graham running outside for 111 yards and Petros inside for 78. They faked the toss to Graham and handoff to Petros, cutting back against the grain. And they had great success with those 2 plays last week.
1st and 10 from the 28. Same formation as the last. This time they give it to Petros again. He cuts to his right and picks up about 7.
And again, Dan Ferroni, he's the trap man on that quick trap. He pulls from that right guard position right across behind the center, makes the good trap, and Petros is there.
Jones looking to the Calgary bench to get some selection.
2nd and 2.5, 2nd and 3. That's a tough situation for a quarterback. You think you should be able to run and get it.
Petros has carried 6 times for 30 yards. This is Lorenzo Graham. He'll be close to a 1st down, but Gene Gaines may have prevented him from moving the yardsticks.
Gaines made a good play coming in. Petros tried to take the legs out from under him. He just got down a little bit too low, and Gaines went right over the top and made the hit.
Stampeders leave the offense out there. They're gambling on 3rd and less than a yard. point with 12:31 remaining. Don Moon with the big play on stopping Tim Petros on 3rd and less than 1.
You got to like Gerald Bayless again. The penetration, he submarined into the gap. He slowed everything down, and in that man, Don Moon come in and really put the finishing touches on him. He didn't even get close. That was good defense.
Well, the Toronto Argonauts ranked number 2 in the CFL in the giveaway takeaway category at +10. They are second to Edmonton at +24. Forcing a team to turn over the football on 3rd down. Counts in that giveaway category. End zone pass, and it's incomplete. Ron Hopkins was defending against Paco Craig.
You know, I used to hear defenders, corners, you know, the cornerbacks are very confident, cocky individuals. They always tell the receivers, get in this pocket for me and I'll let you out after the game's over. Watch the coverage number 15 Hopkins had. What a hit by Fleming just as he let it go. But Ron Hopkins had Paco Craig right in his hip pocket again.
That's at least twice in this ball game he has had that excellent coverage on Craig.
He just seems to know where he's going before he gets there, and he's right with him all the time.
2nd and 10 from the 36-yard line. Draw play with Ryan Hansen. First down, Toronto to the 23.
Good job up front by the Argonaut in the middle of the offensive line. Sexton, Skemp, and Sean McEwen. Watch it. Here he comes. Sean McEwen takes on Landry. A good block by Chris Schultz, and then Hansen just runs the ball. Good job by the Argonauts. It's been their best running plays, the draw by Hudson and then the draw by Hansen.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 23. Handoff to Underwood. Underwood couldn't escape the safety, Darcy Kopp, who came up to pull the feet out from under him.
Pretty good misdirection. By that I mean that they got the Calgary defense moving hard to their left, and then all of a sudden Underwood goes backside with it. A tackle right here by Darcy Kopp might have saved the touchdown.
It was 7-0 Calgary. After 15 minutes of play, the Argos got their touchdown in the 2nd quarter. And now they're threatening to move in front as they send in the short yardage offense on this 2nd down play. Underwood drives to the 15-yard line. He'll be stopped short of a first down. And I think Babilovich has already made his decision. He is sending in the field goal unit.
I don't particularly like that call on a second in a short yardage team. When you bring in the 2 tight ends and a stacked backfield, the defense adjusts, they crowd in, they make it very difficult to get 5. When I saw the short yardage, I thought it was like 2nd and 2. 2nd and 5 is a long way.
So Chomik will be attempting to put the Argos in front for the first time in the ball game, a 22-yard field goal attempt. It's good. And the Argos lead by 2. Well, the Argos got their touchdown as the result of a turnover. They get their field goal as the result of a turnover.
Well, the name of the game is, you know, when you have to work for it and move it down the field, you have a chance to make mistakes. When you get turnovers, take them and get points out of them.
Calgary will scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line following that 22-yard Lance Chomik field goal. Twin receivers to either side. Second man through. Lorenzo Graham gets the ball. Breaks a tackle, and he continues on his way. Forced out of bounds by Carl Brazeley, but not before he got to the 37.
Good job on the counter. Start to your right. Lorenzo Graham takes a step to his right, comes back. He's got Tom Spallettini, number 61, leading him. Then it was just Graham himself that ran out of a couple of those tackles. And he gets outside where Brazeley has to come over and help on the tackle. In fact, he makes the tackle, but that's a good job of running.
38-yard gain for Lorenzo Graham. 1st and 10 Calgary. The ball is at the 37. Fake inside. Gets away from Hallman, but he can't escape everybody. And it is the linebacker, Chris Gaines, who makes the tackle.
What you the way number 70, Harold Hallman, played that. He came upfield and played his position, and he did not move. He forced him. Watch. Fake. Now watch right to your right side. There he is. He says, you're not going outside of me. You come back inside, and that wild man middle linebacker will be there to help me out. That's good defense.
On second down, Jones is flushed out of the pocket. And is it intercepted? Yes. Jones to escape pressure, but good reaction on the part of Ed Berry to make the interception.
We're going to get a good look at it now. Jones took a short drop. He wanted to throw the ball early. He wasn't open. Now Willis sees him scramble. He stops to come back, but look at Berry. Berry looked back at the same time he did and then cut in front, made the interception. That time Berry played it about as well as you can. When Willis stopped, he stopped.
Underwood on 1st and 10. And number 33 for the Argos duplicates the performance of number 33 for the Stampeders with his best run of the ball game.
5'7", 195 pounds out of Wagner College, which is a Division III school, which is what Wittenberg is, Division III, small college. But that's an excellent run by Underwood.
How did Wittenberg get into this conversation?
Division III. You don't see too many Division III players anymore. Somehow or other they've been shoved aside. Guys.
And I think one of the requirements of all Division III players is they must be under 5'9".
Under 5'9", that's it.
Ron Lancaster played his collegiate football at Wittenberg College, but is more interested today in the results of Acadia and St. Mary's.
We don't want to know that, Don. It went as it should have. St. Mary's taught him a lesson again. That's a #1 ranked team in the country. Chris Flynn, the quarterback, they're awful good club. They give him a pretty good whipping today.
Second and 8. Jemmy gets to the outside. Throws deep for Slater Zaleski. Incomplete. Howard Fields and Darcy Kopp were both covering the Argo slot back, Slater Zaleski.
Howard Fields fell down just at the, I guess depending on who you're cheering for, at the most inopportune time for the Stampeders. Just as the ball arrived, he fell down. And Zaleski was almost able to catch it.
7:28 remaining in the half. Pretty good punting by both Matic and Harper.
Well, they're very consistent. Harper last week punted just about as well as you can punt. Hanging up there and cover it. Matic has punted well all year.
And of course, in the Sky Dome, they don't have to contend with any wind problems. McCrary on the run takes that kick. We said early in the ball game that they were setting this up, and on the dead run, another excellent return by David McCrary, getting the ball back to the 40-yard line. That was not a long kick. 33 yards, but a good run back by McCrary.
The thing he did, as you mentioned, it wasn't long. He caught it as he was running forward. You have to give him 5 yards, and as the Argonauts were slowing down, he was exploding, and he goes down to where Harper has to get in onto the tackle.
1st and 10 from the 41-yard line. Jones throws to Tim Petros, and Petros is upended by Berry after a gain of 7. The quarterback, Jones, had 2 Argo linemen in his face as he threw that ball. Hallman has been in pursuit of him all night.
Well, they don't bring anyone out there with them. This is a naked bootleg. I mean, when they sell the play-action run, they pull 2 linemen all the way across. He comes out with no help. Then the Argonauts must have known something because they have stayed at home and forced him to do something with the ball.
Lorenzo the initial tackle, and he'll convert this into a 1st down, or at least be close enough that the Stampeders will gamble.
Gerald Bayless, 99, hit Mike Palumbo, the center, and drove him right back into Lorenzo Graham, and it caused Graham to give ground and go outside.
They're going to measure to determine whether or not Lorenzo Graham was able to get a 1st down. 6:03 remaining in the 3rd quarter. The Argos in front by a score of 10-8. It is going to be that much short.
Now let's see if he learned anything from the last time. Last time he ran the ball, handed it off deep. He should sneak it. He's a running quarterback anyway. He's got to sneak this football. It's about a half a yard.
I think Larry Kuharich may have suggested that to him when he came off after that last play.
I'm sure he did. But you hope he remembers it when he gets back out there.
A third down gamble by the Calgary Stampeders, trailing by 2 points. He's going to run it. Whoa, it's going to be close. I don't think that was the type of run that Kuharich may have had in mind or that you were thinking of.
No, you go straight ahead with the football when it's 3rd and a half a yard. If he didn't get to that white line, he did not make it, I don't think. Although that's not the official mark. The official marks on this side is just short of the line, but it's going to be close.
Yes or no, it is a first down, much to the relief of Terrence Jones.
You bet it is. He'd have to come off the field. You don't want to get stopped twice on 3rd down. I think Bob Rabilovich was right yesterday. He said if we force them to throw the ball, we can beat them. But if we allow them to run, we're in trouble. So far, that's been the story.
Do it again.
5:34 is the time remaining in the 3rd quarter. 1st and 10 Calgary. The pitch to Graham. He cuts it back inside, and waiting for him was Glenn Kulka.
Good penetration by 58 Bruce Holmes. He gets outside, forces it inside. Watch him. Here comes the toss. Now watch number 58. Right here, turns it back in. Kulka is there, Harding is there, and Don Moan's there. So, I mean, you bring him back to your friends. Get a little bit of help.
Second and 8. Quarterback draw. Jones did a good job of following that block to pick up a first down. Spallettini leading the way.
Did a good job. See, that's the kind of thing that Terrence Jones can do and do so well. This is run all the way. Take a look. He just takes it, step back, read the block of Palumbo, the center. Now he's telling number 61, Spallettini, what to do. He's a good athlete. Good. You can tell he knows what he's doing when he's running with the football, and he dives forward at the end to not take the good hit.
First down pitch to Lorenzo Graham. He ran into the safety, Richard Brothers, but still managed to get 7 yards.
Now, Richard Brothers is out of Arkansas, so you know he can hit. He was drafted by the Chicago Bears as a defensive back, so you know they like to play a little physical. But watch the collision right now with number 33, Lorenzo Graham. Leading, cuts in behind Petros's block. The collision's coming right there, head to head. That is good, solid football.
And I think it is Richard Brothers who is down. He really took the impact. Graham dipped his shoulder. A good block in leading Graham through there by Tim Petros as he took the middle linebacker Chris Gaines out of the play.
Well, that's a tough job for someone that's Petros' size. He's only 5'10", 200 pounds, but he took the linebacker on, and you saw Graham cut inside. When you cut inside and get that head of steam up, you got about a 10-yard run before you run into the safety man, in this case, Brothers. He's probably got a pretty good headache. Those helmets hit. They protect you, but you sure can get a headache.
Brothers moved up to make the tackle, but watch Graham dip into him.
Get that head down, and when contact comes, there it is. Head, helmet on, helmet. That's what football's all about. He got in a good hitting position. You notice when Brothers came in to make the tackle, he came up and through. That was an excellent hit, but he took the worst of it because the ball carrier dipped, as you say. That's what you have to do to protect yourself. He got 2 hits. He didn't know who to talk to. I think the other person hung up on him. He's telling him, put that headset back on.
Well, he is in communication with the 2 headsets with both the offensive and defensive people up in the box upstairs. And he has to borrow that other headset from Joe Moss to find out what is going on. Joe Moss is in charge of the linebackers, so
what you have, Bob usually talks to Jim Gilstrap, the offensive coach. Joe Moss talks to Dennis Meyer. But if Bob wants to talk to the defensive coaches, he's got to borrow the headset. I think that there should be three headsets on the sidelines, and the head coach should have one with a switch so he can talk to anybody he wants to.
Can we get them all a cellular phone? Tim Petros trying to get the first down on 2nd and about 3, stopped by Glenn Kulka. And it is a first down. Brothers has been replaced by Todd Wiseman as the Argo safety. It's 1st and goal for the Stampeders. They are at the 6-yard. 30 remaining in the 3rd quarter. They trail by 2 points. Petros got to the 5, maybe to the 4 before being driven back.
You know, his brothers went out of the game after the hit on Graham, but he was slow getting out. Lorenzo Graham also left the football game, and he's sitting down on the bench talking to Pat Clayton. That was a heck of a collision. Andy McVeigh gets in there. McVeigh out of the University of Toronto a couple years ago, came out the same year Blake Marshall did. I thought those were the 2 best running backs in the country.
2nd and goal from the 4. There's that option toss. McVeigh will score easily.
You have to be impressed with the way Terrence Jones runs that option. That's a speed option. You just take it, come straight down the line, look for the first force, pitch it to the back. Once he pitched it, I think it was Don Moe is coming. Watch it, take it. Now just start straight down the line. Here he comes. Look for the first blue jersey. Here comes Don Moe. Pitch it, and you notice he ducks again. Tim Petros leads McVeigh around, has nobody to block. McVeigh just goes in standing up.
McVeigh has only carried the football 17 times coming into the ball game, and he gets his first touchdown of the year. And
get in front of it.
That's the 2nd time that Larry Kaharich has seen his team fail on a convert try this year. It happened in the very first game of the season in a loss to the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
That one was costly. That's a tough one. You never know when that 1 point's important. Most of the times it's automatic, but boy, when you miss it.
This is Underwood. What an excellent return, but it draws a penalty flag as he gets to midfield. Howard Fields made the tackle.
Either Bruce Holmes is going to be called on Landry or Hudson. The 2 of them had Landry in a vice, and that's where the referee threw the flag.
Holding Toronto number 58 on the run back. First down.
It was Bruce Holmes guilty of that holding call. Remember, tomorrow night on CBC television at 8 local time, a September to Remember, a retrospective look at the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul. We'll discuss the Ben Johnson story, the Dublin Inquiry, some of the success of other Canadian athletes like Carolyn Waldo, and we'll also hear from Florence Griffith Joyner and the accusations that have been leveled at her about drug involvement. This is intercepted by David McCrary. Rodney Harding, or I should say Warren Hudson, makes the tackle over at the 35-yard line. There was a penalty flag on the play.
I think it's against Toronto. They'll decline this. Somebody got in John Congemi's face right now, and I wasn't sure whether it was outside man Will Johnson, I believe. He came unblocked, and John Congemi had to pull up and throw it all at once, and he overthrew the receiver right into McCrary's hands.
So with that turnover, the Stampeders, leading by 4, get an opportunity to add to their lead with 2:18 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
Illegal procedure. Toronto is declined. Objectionable conduct. Calgary. First down.
Well, the Stampeders retain possession, but that takes the ball back to the 45-yard line. 1st and 10, Calgary.
I don't know who the objectionable conduct call was on, but boy, I'll tell you, 81 Johnson was right in Congemi's face. You make your decision, either eat it or throw it. He threw it. Now it was the wrong one.
Jones will throw it. Marshall Toner is wide open.
You know, they talk about football players, and Marshall Toner is very, very tough. Just right down the middle. A little bit of play action. There it is. To Andy McVeigh. Now he looks to his left. Coming from the backside, right down the middle, number 76, Marshall Toner. Great determination. Right up in the middle of that zone. Pulls it down, takes the hit. Had 1 touchdown coming in. Got it down close.
38 yards on the pass from Jones to Toner. It's 1st and goal for the Stampeders. The pitch to Andy McVeigh. Reggie Pleasant came up from his halfback position, and he just dove to take the feet out from under Andy McVeigh.
Well, McVeigh, 210 pounds. Watch him come around the corner, and watch number 2, Pleasant. This is what football is all about. Corners don't like to have to do this, but when you have to come up, he does it, and he does it well. Get low. Don't take him on up in the shoulder pads. Get underneath and get those legs, and he flipped them. Good job of tackling.
It's 2nd and goal from the 8-yard line. Look out, Terrence. He got it away just as Harold Hallman leveled on the Calgary quarterback, and that pass to the sidelines intended for Willis was out of bounds.
Terrence might be wise to bring a guard with him next time. He's run that naked bootleg 3 or 4 times. All right, watch it. No one with him. Here he comes all by himself. Now, they got a man out here to stop him, and then coming from the backside, they had 36, Don Moan waiting on him, and then they have Hallman and Kolka coming up the middle. Now, that's 3 nasty people that like to hit quarterbacks.
Mark McLaughlin will attempt a 15-yard field goal on 3rd down. And he gives the Calgary Stampeders a 7-point lead with 28 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Bilovich and John Kangemi discussing the offensive series that they will be running. And Larry Kaharich is also discussing with his quarterback just transpired and why they weren't able to put it into the end zone.
Yeah, the only difference is when you're in Kangemi's shoes, though, Bilovich is going to be telling you what to do. Terrence is going to be saying, can I bring a protector out there with me? He's taking some pretty good hits. He hangs in there. He's tough. I remember we sat up there in Koharich's office one day. He showed us some films on him, practice films, and what he thought he was learning and the way he was bringing him along. And I think it's paying off now.
McLaughlin preparing to kick off after that 15-yard field goal. Clemens on the kickoff return. Howard Fields managed to grab his sweater and spin him around, and that attracts a real crowd of people over on the sidelines with 18 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Let's bring in Scott Oak.
Well, Don, the Toronto Argonauts had 3 quarterbacks prior to the start of the season. One was Danny Barrett, whom they traded to the Calgary Stampeders, and they may regret it now, because if you were still in Toronto as a member of the Argos, you would likely be playing tonight.
Well, it's hard to say right now what the situation would be in Toronto. And I'm happy to be in Calgary. They treat me very well out there, and I just can't say enough about the organization.
You're not playing tonight, but you did ignite the offense of the Stampeders when you got a chance to play earlier in the season.
Well, that's true. I think we was in a position where, somebody needed to do something. As a team, we all came together, and I'm just one of a team here, and that's what we look forward to.
All right, thank you, Danny. Don?
Bobby McAllister in that quarterback for the Argos, not having much more success than John Kangemi. Kangemi had not completed a pass in his last 10 attempts, and that's probably the reason that Coach Bobo Bilovich decided to go with Bobby McAllister. With the Toronto Argonauts looking at 2nd and 15. Bobby McAllister in place of John Kangemi. A penalty flag on the play. Sideline pattern intended for Paco Craig, incomplete, and I think this is going to be a procedure call against the Toronto Argonauts.
That's what it is. So they'll decline this, let them punt the football. We talk about Bobby McAllister. He was quarterback last year at Michigan State University. Good career down there. Was signed by the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Procedure. Toronto 37, decline.
He wasn't going to crack that lineup with Burgess and Austin and Ventrum out there, so he became expendable, and when Barrett went to Calgary, McAllister came to Toronto.
All you need right now.
We first saw McAllister in a game earlier in the season at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, where he came into the game late to replace a then injured John Kangemi. And this is going to be a time count violation. The Argos have fouled up. They don't have enough people out there for this third down punt.
Now, Bilovich will go a little crazy here in a minute. But there's nobody coming in yet. Here comes one.
And Bob Bilovich is now trying to find out just what went wrong and why Glenn Kalka wasn't out there.
That's a good question. I want to hear.
Harper's third down kick to McCrary. Penalty flag. This could be a no yards call against the Argos. Brothers, who was shaken up earlier, was in on that tackle along with Berry. A 37-yard punt that time by Glenn Harper.
No yards. Toronto number 25. First down.
Well, that's one of the reasons Brothers was able to make that tackle. He was inside that 5-yard restraining area. The Stampeders now equal area of first downs. Stampeders with more total yards than the Toronto Argonauts. Both sides have been running the ball fairly well, but the advantage in the offense lies with the Stampeder passing attack. As we mentioned earlier, John Congemi, before giving way to Bobby McAllister, had missed 10 consecutive passes.
Yeah, that's why you see the time starting to creep up in Calgary's favor. As you remember, the Argonauts had a big lead as far as having the ball in the minutes of the game, but right now it's only like 4 or 5 minutes different. Now they'll go ahead of them in this fourth quarter.
With that no yards call against Brothers, it's 1st and 10. The Stampeders at their own 54-yard line. Good faking by Jones, throwing for Willis. He can't hang on. Willis had that pass just slightly behind him. He had to reach back to try and haul it in.
I'll tell you, that's a neat pattern that Calgary runs. They run that play-action fake, and they bring Petros out of the backfield right underneath the linebackers. Now, they try to hold the linebackers, and then right in behind them comes Willis. But as you say, he had to reach down and back. But I'll tell you, the hole opened up pretty well.
2nd and 10 from the 54. 13:50 remaining in the ballgame. Again, that option. There's the toss to Andy McVeigh. And Andy McVeigh simply ran out of room on those sidelines. Lorenzo Graham has not returned since that collision with Brothers. Brothers is back, but Graham isn't.
That's right. Graham's been sitting in the same place. He came right off the field, sat on the bench. Pat Clayton, the trainer, went over and looked at him, and he has stayed there. Here he comes again. Here comes that option. I thought they were going to let him run, make him turn up, but if he comes in, puts a pretty good hit on him, gets him in the hip. He gets up limping a little bit. That's what happens. This is a pretty good collision here, too. 72. Chris Gaines has seems to be. That's what you want that middle linebacker to do.
United States, and what a magnificent place to play the Grey Cup. And whoever earns the right to play in this game, it's a great game, and it's traditional. You know, the NFL is, I think, 70 years old, but the CFL, I think, is 77 years old.
That's the political answer, Joe. Very diplomatic. Thanks for joining us, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Don?
Well, Scott, Joe Kapp almost looks as though he could still step onto the field and play. He, I think, is probably even a few pounds lighter than when he played. McAllister's pass to Bell, and Thurman was providing the coverage, preventing him from getting a first down and forcing the punt.
Well, you know, when I see Joe Kapp, now he did it tonight again, right? We're down there talking, when ball rolls by, he picks it up to throw, right? His hands are so big, the ball disappeared in there. Now, what I remember is playing at Old Empire Stadium in the mud and the rain, and I would do anything to try to keep my hands dry, and I'd laugh. He'd go over and wash his off in the mud puddles and then throw the football. I mean, I have to look. I mean, it's amazing. He picked that ball up again tonight, and the ball disappeared.
Yes, he would stand back there at Empire Stadium and throw deep from one end to the other and let Willie Fleming run under it.
They were a good play. They were nasty to play against.
Here comes McCrary. Boy, they've been working on that return all night long, and they have had a couple of big gains. And McCrary got that one back to the 39-yard line.
Again, he catches the football coming forward, Now watch him explode at the right time. He just keeps running. He sees a little hole, jumps through it. He's hurt right now on the field. Let's see if we can see what happened. Reggie Pleasant tries to strip him. Then Glenn Kalka jumps on top.
And while we were watching this replay, Glenn Kalka got into a scrap over on the bench with Danny Barrett. And then Doug Landry jumped into it. And now John Helton is out there, but Danny Barrett, who was on the bench, must have said something to Kalka, and Kalka took a swing at him. And Barrett doesn't have a uniform on. Landry went flying at Kalka. Landry lost his helmet. And there's Barrett in the tracksuit.
I'll say this, when John Helton's out there, I'm betting on Helton. He's a pretty tough guy. He went out there and broke it up. I know one thing, don't get in a fight with your helmet off. Leave your helmet on. Meanwhile, McCrary's still down. I'm trying to look on the replay, and I couldn't exactly see what happened. Only thing I can figure is the ball, when he landed on the ball, it came up into his stomach. I tell you now, that'll hurt. I did that one time, and you don't want to do it too many. You can break ribs very easily.
Well, that was a fine return of 36 yards by McCrary. And so far, we have seen no indication that anybody is going to be thrown out of the football game, but they were really throwing punches.
Yeah, that wasn't just a shoving match down there, was it?
35,006 watching the action tonight here at the Sky Dome. And it appears as though David McCrary has been more than just winded.
Yeah, he landed very hard. You got Glenn Kalka running, and Pleasant slowed him down. Kalka jumps on your back. You go down to meet the ground in a hurry.
No penalties assessed as a result of that altercation, but they were really swinging at each other. Tim Petros picks up about 3 yards. And now there's another penalty flag, and right in the middle of it is Glenn Kalka.
Spallettini, that's that trap play they'd run around a while ago with Baroni. This time they bring Spallettini from his right guard position, and then Kalka does
unnecessary roughness. Toronto number 68.
That's right.
First down.
That's a good call. He started it. I think they're losing their poise down there a little bit. The Argonauts are a little bit frustrated. It hasn't been a happy night for them or a happy month.
And that moves the ball down to the 21-yard line. 1st and 10 for Calgary. Tim Petros stopped and driven back after a pickup of about 1 yard.
The line play right now is about as vicious as it can get. Spallettini again pulls from that guard position to trap on Kalka. He stands it up, and then bang, the rest of the blue jerseys are there. Petros gets only a yard.
Well, because that tackle was made on that punt return on McCrary directly in front of the Calgary bench, the officials may not have seen that initial exchange between Kalka and Barrett and then Landry getting involved. It was more or less behind them. Players coming off the bench on the exchange. Jones escapes the initial pressure, running down the sidelines. He is forced out of bounds at the 6.
You know, you hear him talk all the time what value it is for a quarterback that can run. Matt Dunnigan proves it every time you see him. Watch Terrence Jones. There's the bootleg fake all by himself. He outruns Rodney Harding. Watch him turn on the Jets right here. Chris Gaines tries to get him. He tight ropes down the sideline, then wisely steps out of bounds after he has it. That running ability is such an asset on this field.
Jones has certainly displayed great athletic ability in tonight's ball game. 10:30 remaining in the game. It's 1st and goal, Calgary. The pitch to Andy McVeigh. He is stopped right at the line of scrimmage by Rodney Harding and Chris Gaines.
Carl Brazeley, all three of them converged on McVeigh. The success that they've had is when they've cut that thing back inside. McVeigh didn't cut back inside. He ran into it. He's limping a little bit as he got up. He'll be all right. That's a good hit. Good defense by the Argonauts. I don't think they want to go down by, they're down 7. They don't want to go down 14 the way they played tonight. They can still win it now, but don't go down 14.
2 receivers wide to the left. Play with Jones. and he dives through to the 5-yard line. Don Moan was the man who stopped Jones from getting to the end zone.
So when you see a quarterback run that particular play, quarterback draw by Terrence Jones up the middle, he has more confidence in his running ability than his throwing ability. But that will come. Right now, he does what he does best, and that's run with the football.
The Stampeders lead by 7 with 9:27 remaining in the game. Been doing a lot of pacing over on those sidelines at the moment. Bob Obilovich is glancing up at that scoreboard and looking at the 9:15 remaining and wondering what his Argos might be able to do to erase that deficit. For starters, a good kickoff return by Underwood would help, but he is brought down at the 34-yard line by Matt Finley.
I'm just looking. McAllister's coming back in at quarterback. I don't know. I think that Jimmy should have been in the ballgame. I mean, I saw the first game of the year here where Gilbert Renfro went almost the whole football game without moving the offense. You're only down 7 when Jimmy went out of the game. I think even though they have all new people, you need a little bit of experience someplace. Now McAllister will throw a touchdown, they'll be right back in.
Now McAllister is going deep for Hoskins. He's got it at the 52 of Calgary.
Well, the well-thrown football, as I said, he come right back and just laid it right in. Man coverage by Howard Fields. But watch Greg Peterson, 24, come across. What's to the right of your screen? Come in. Here comes 16 right with him behind him as he jumps. Bang. I'm sorry, it's Darcy Kopp and Howard Fields. They put a pretty good hit on Eric Hoskins.
24-yard gain for Hoskins. He has scored the Argos' lone touchdown. McAllister throwing the screen to Underwood. That'll be another Toronto first down.
Well-executed screen. McAllister took his normal 5-step drop, then starts drifting back, lays it off out to Underwood. He gets good blocking by the Argonaut front. He picks up another first down.
Well, the Argos, if they have designs on second place or even first place, need a win desperately to stay within striking distance of Hamilton and Winnipeg. Underwood running down the sidelines, picks up about 8 yards, maybe even 9. Ron Hopkins making the tackle. In the West of...
Sorry, go ahead.
In the West, of course, Calgary attempting to break out of a second-place tie with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The Roughriders will play tomorrow in Ottawa.
Looking at those standings, the BC Lions now, they have to win them to Commonwealth Stadium
Procedure.
tomorrow.
Toronto had no end on the right side of the line. First down repeated.
And they have to win the football. They don't want to get too far. Too big. Calgary and Saskatchewan, they got to keep close, and they need a big one tomorrow.
So that procedure call takes the ball back to the 44-yard line. It's 1st and 15 with 7:30 remaining. Penalty flag as McAllister is dragged down by Will Johnson. But that flag flew prior to Johnson making the tackle. It will probably be a holding call.
Toronto 65, decline.
He had hold of Mitchell Price, number 74, coming from the defensive tackle position, and he just dragged him down. What's number 65? Just to the right. Here comes Mitchell Price. He's got a headlock on him right around, drags him down, had a hold of that left arm, and you saw the referee throw the flag immediately.
2nd and 20. David McCrary has not. As a result, the Stampeders have been forced to do some juggling in their secondary, moving Peterson and Kopp around. They don't have to worry about that ball being thrown as long as they can get pressure like that from Flint Fleming.
It's another one of those Eastern Michigan players we were talking about a while ago. You see what penalties do to a drive. First, we'll see McAllister go back. The pocket tries to squeeze. He wants to go outside. Will Johnson won't let him outside, so when he stops, the backside defensive end, Fleming brings him down. But the Argonauts had an 8-yard gain by Underwood and a 2nd and 3 procedure penalty made it 1st and 15, and it snuffed out the whole drive.
And Bob Obilovich has to be concerned with some of the dumb penalties that the Argos have taken tonight. Not having enough players on the field and a 3rd down punt, having no end on the line.
All right. Yeah, you're always concerned about those. You're like, You're supposed to have a man on the line of scrimmage, and somebody in the formation call is supposed to be there. So get up there. You know, you can only coach them in practice. You don't, when they get on the field, they have to know their assignments.
Ellis Rainsberger wasn't very happy there with the number of steps that the quarterback McAllister had taken on that drop.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was talking about. He said he took 8 steps. Now that's a weird number. You either take 5 or 7, but very seldom do you take 8. It's a weird number if you're a right-handed quarterback to take 8. I know it sounds crazy, but just start out sometime if you're right-handed with your right foot. You want that foot back when you stop, so it either has to be 5 or 7. 8 is a for those 2 crazy penalties on kick return. This time, I think it was him, man on the spot, dove in there. That ball is rolling free, and you'll see number 18 as Clemens bounces around. He takes the first hit, spins. There goes the ball. Watch it come out of there, but watch number 18 come in from the middle. Looks like Calgary can't miss from that angle. Lloyd Salazar jumped right on it.
John Congemi has returned as the Argo quarterback. 1st and 10. The ball is at the 48-yard line. Underwood gets a first down. That was almost a lateral. As a matter of fact, I think it was behind the quarterback.
You know, Underwood has a lot of the characteristics Finnerty does. You get him out here one-on-one with a linebacker who's got great ability to make the first man miss. And that's Kenny Ford, who's a pretty good tackler, but he just stepped inside of him with no problem. And then Landry had to come over and hit him. But look at that. He's still got a little bit of power and balance to stay up.
4:42 is the time remaining. Here's the draw play with Underwood. That will only produce a gain of a couple of yards before he was stopped by Flint Fleming. When you play teams back-to-back, there are usually heated exchanges in game 2, and we have seen a number of those tonight.
You know what? I've never understood a schedule where you play teams back-to-back. There's nothing worse than preparing for the same team 2 weeks in a row. It's not any fun.
We remind you that this program is copyrighted strictly for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, exhibition, distribution, in whole or in part, without the express written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, is prohibited. Hoskins, the intended receiver, knocked down by Howard Fields.
Good coverage by Howard Fields. He's tried to go down the middle. Just went real high up to knock the football away from Hoskins.
Howard Fields is back for this 3rd down kick with 4:04 remaining. The Argos are rapidly running out of time. They've made some good gains in the midfield area, but once they get around the 40-yard line of the Stampeders, they've had difficulty pushing it in. Fields takes it on the run, and he had 3 Argos waiting for him. Warren Hudson was the first man down there.
Final instructions from Coach Buharic to Jones going on the field. Right now, he's telling him you got a 10-point lead with 3.5 minutes left. Let's don't turn it over.
Jones has been running that option play a lot in this ball game, and he's had mixed success with it. That's a favorite play in college football. Why don't the pros use it?
Quarterbacks are too valuable to take their hits. You don't want your quarterback taking some of the hits. If they force Jones to cut inside with that football, that middle linebacker's coming. Every defensive lineman is coming right at him, and he's going to take an awful lot of tremendous hits. And then if you go and hit him right now with the guy, you can hurt him. Too valuable to have him hit that many times.
So you let the running backs take the hits.
That's what they're paid for.
Tim Petros picked up about 2 yards and is stopped by Glenn Kulka.
Well, Glenn Kulka, let's see what he's doing today. And a little battle with Lloyd Fairbanks. You see Fairbanks got good feet. He worked those feet inside. Kulka still managed to get in on the hit, but he got the inside-out position, forced Kulka to go around him. Quarterbacks are paid to make first downs, and this eventually...
Tomorrow afternoon from Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, the Eskimos will entertain the British Columbia Lions. Steve Armitage, Al Wilson, and Chris Cuthbert are on hand to describe that one for you. The BC Lions at the Edmonton Eskimos tomorrow afternoon on CBC television. It's a big sports day tomorrow on CBC television. Tomorrow night at 8. September to remember. Look back at the Olympic Games in Seoul and all that has transpired since. Matic stands at his own 10-yard line. 2:46 is the time remaining. Calgary leading by a score of 20-10. Good high kick. Clemens has to go back to his own 33-yard line. Bayless with a hit on York. Just flattened him. Oh, did he deck Jim York?
You could see it coming, could you? Oh.
Good return by Clemens. That draws a penalty flag, but Jim York is still down. A 36-yard return.
Calgary number 4. First down.
Matic getting involved in that tackle. Hauled Clemens down with the face mask.
You got to watch it coming from the left side of your screen. It's just a question of whether Bayless can get there on time. You'll see number 30, but watch this. There it is. Oh. Well, I'll tell you, you don't see it coming, but when you sure feel the effects, that's the block that sprung him. And here's the face mask right here. Matic reached out, just pulls him down any way he can. Oh, that is a great block by Bayless. This is what happens to the centers. He gets beat up, he grabs and pulls him down. Now get into the coverage. He chases him across one field. Now, Clemens is starting the other way now. Let's see what he does. Better look, get your head on a swivel. Ed Berry gets a pretty good shot on him. Well, I guess that's that.
Well, our isolation director, Mo Waters, certainly focused on the right player that time. Jim York is still down. Brent Matic was guilty of a face mask call in making the tackle on Clemens, but that may have saved a touchdown. But York is still wondering what day it is.
Oh, yeah, he's got to be wondering that, because when he went hit, the feet went right off the ground, and he hit on his back, which means his head slammed into the turf.
His father, Ray, the former coach of both Edmonton and Winnipeg, watching this game tonight on satellite television in the United States, probably felt that one all the way down in Chicago.
Oh, I'll tell you, he probably had to turn his head away. I mean, he really got hit. But he seems to be okay. He's up walking around.
1st and 10, Toronto from the 25-yard line. Dumped off to Underwood. No place to go as Ken Ford prevented him from getting to the outside.
As a screen pass from Jimmy to Underwood. Underwood left too fast. He got out there before his blockers got out there. It's a timing pattern. That back's supposed to watch the lineman. When the linemen leave, they leave. He went too fast.
2nd and 10 with 2:05 remaining. Conjemi looking to the end zone. Incomplete. It was intended for Paco Craig. And again, Hopkins had him, as you said earlier in the telecast, a couple of times, Ron, in his hip pocket.
Yeah, he threw the flag, I think.
I'll tell you what, whenever you see Paco Craig run, Hopkins is right beside him. Bang. He says, get in here, I'll let you out after the game. Sprint to your left. Now he can't go no further. He's got to throw it. Let it go, because here comes Kenny Ford. Takes the hit. Wrap the arms around him. But boy, I'll tell you, Hopkins has been with him everywhere he's gone.
Ford was dangerously close there to being called for roughing the quarterback.
I think what saved him there is he just reached and he wrapped him up with his arms and stuff. He didn't come in trying to club him or hit him late, drop him. He just grabbed him and put him on the ground.
Lance Chomick splits the uprights from 32 yards out with 1:53 remaining. And it's now a 7-point game.
The Argonauts have been played. They've been beaten pretty good by the Stampeders. They've been outplayed tonight. But right now, if the defense can come up big, right chance to tie this football game. Minute 53 seconds is a long time.
The Stampeders scrimmage from the 35-yard line. Larry Kaharick would like to see his team pick up at least one first down.
Oh, yeah. Right now, quarterbacks got to think first down. Touchdowns aren't important. First downs are.
And he wants him to stay on the ground, and that he does with Tim Petrus carrying the ball.
Davis has been a little bit upset tonight about being held. Let's see what happens. Fires right into the center again. Palumbo gets back. Watch him jump up, and we don't want to see that, but he jumped right up and started talking to the official a little bit.
Second and 4, Calgary. Andy McVay. They caught the Argos blitzing.
Sure did. When you blitz, if you're not blitzing to the hole where they're running, you can run yourself right out of the play. And in that particular case, we're going to get a good look at it. Watch 72 gains. They run out inside, and he gets blocked very easily. And now McVay has a big hole to run through. Picks up good yardage.
A 34-yard gain for number 34, Andy McVay, taking the ball to the 40-yard line. And the clock to 1:10 remaining. And the Calgary Stampeders quite content now to stay on the ground.
Very much so. You know, that big run by McVay is what they needed. They get a 1st and 10. They're in the Argonaut territory. If they can get a little bit closer, 3-4 yards, they can have McLaughlin try a field goal, anything to get another point on the board. Down under a minute, 55 seconds. Big down for Jones. Let's see what he does with it. Will he throw it? Question.
He throws low to the sidelines, and the catch is made by Brock Smith, his first catch of the night. And that will be a Calgary first down, and that takes the clock to 37 seconds remaining. He threw that low. If it wasn't going to be completed, it wasn't going to be intercepted.
And the other thing, watch Carl Brazeley. Watch the coverage that he has on him. That's excellent coverage by number 7. He's just thrown it to a position low and outside. Outside the receiver. And as you said, if he doesn't catch it, Brazeley can't get it.
There's the handoff to Tim Petros. Straight ahead for close to another first down.
Well, with 15 seconds left now, it doesn't matter anymore. Just run a couple plays, get the game over. Second and about a half a yard. Clock running. This should be it. They didn't call timeout, so Jones can end it right here.
And this will be the 5th consecutive loss for the Argos. Their 6th loss in their last 7 games. A team that was 14-4 last year.
Calgary is now 6-1 against Eastern teams.
And as Jones drops to his knee, that ends this ball game with the Calgary Stampeders defeating the Toronto Argonauts 20-13 and moving into second place in the Western Conference. And Bob Vilovich's Argos remain in 3rd place in the East. We'll be back after this.